So having a plethora of factions in wrestling isn't exactly a new thing. It does feel like in WWE and AEW it is becoming more common once again. After a bit of a low period in like the mid 2010s or early 2010s in WWE, AEW arguably brought it back into style with teams like Dark Order, the Hardy Family Office, the Elite, and Dark Order. Or the Best Friends, sorry, I already said Dark Order. But yeah, since then, many groups have been formed and created and disbanded and changed around. But at the minute, I'd probably say the Elite, the Blackpool Combat Club or Death Riders, Judgment Day and Bloodline are probably the four main groups in AEW and WWE. So in this video, I kind of want to talk about factions and kind of what works with them, what doesn't work with them in definitely more recent history. And yeah, what kind of the problems are with the booking for them, and maybe even some solutions. So yeah, I'm Leo, this is Wrestling Retrospective, and yeah, let's talk about factions in WWE and AEW. So starting off with WWE, and for me it is a similar thing to the women, it's an issue with investment. They're making groups that make perfect sense, and then having them lose instead of having them win at least a fair few matches to become more established. You know, for example, you've got teams like American Made, a group that made a lot of sense, a group that people clamoured for a lot, especially when it was inevitable that Chad Gable was going to leave the Alpha Academy and turn on Otis. It just made the perfect sense to have the kind of Gable and Creed brothers like combination come together as a kind of team angle like type thing, you know what I mean. And yeah, again, they have had, since coming together, they have lost a few important matches, lost title opportunities to teams like LWO, who I'd argue don't need those kind of wins, and that American Made do need those wins. I know that like as of recording last night on Raw, American Made did beat Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio in a tornado tag match, but you know, when it was for more stakes, they had the LWO go over, which I felt like was a terrible decision, as even if they'd lost the title match, like being in the title picture is like more meaningful than just not being in it at all. Another team, the Final Testament, I've talked about them before on the channel. I think twice now I've made videos on the Final Testament, and on paper they should dominate the tag division and even the mid-card division with Karrion Kross, and again, they've just done nothing but lose. They, you know, brought in the AOP and then they kind of lose to smaller teams. I think they lost to the New Day once. They've lost, I think, to the Alpha Academy when it was Otis and Chad. And it's just the kind of stuff, it's like, these guys are supposed to be like a very intimidating team, and all these losses put together, makes them really a non-threat. You know, like we're not going as fans to feel like they're going to threaten anything, and there's really no reason to invest in these teams either, like because we know that kind of at the end of the day they're going to lose. Myself, as I've said, big fan of the Final Testament, but it's hard to get behind them when they're losing all the time. And yeah, just, you know, it also comes down to the recent iteration of the Bloodline. Solo was inserted into world title opportunities way too early, and like he didn't really recover from losing those against Cody, the steel cage match on SmackDown and the match at SummerSlam. He just doesn't. He feels inferior now to Jacob Fatu, which shouldn't be the case because the Tribal Chief should be on top, with the Enforcer being not on the same level, but like maybe a few rungs below him. And yeah, it just kind of doesn't work that way. Like, I'd say the only group that has perfectly dominated in WWE has been the Judgment Day, and that was the Damian Priest, Finn Balor, Rhea Ripley, Dominic iteration of it. More recent iterations, we've seen Balor and JD practically avoid defending the World Tag Team Championships at all cost. I know, again, they did last night on Monday Night Raw against the Viking Raiders, or sorry, the War Raiders, but again, it's just like, what, 2-3 defenses in 150 something days. It's not great from those. And like, again, Liv Morgan kind of so obsessed with Rhea Ripley, or Rhea Ripley's obsessed with her, the fact that it becomes a worry what she's going to do after the Rhea Ripley feud. And Raquel and Carlito are just there. Dominic is killing it, arguably, just topped the 30 under 30 list, but again, he's not been doing a great load as far as like having his own feuds and storytelling. So like, as much as the height of the Judgment Day is probably peaked at this point, again, they've massively dropped off from the position they were in, like only about a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago. And yeah, I feel like, with all these factions and a currently pretty much dying tag team division in WWE, it makes more sense that they will kind of build up teams and kind of have them dominate the tag division for when they want to build up more tag teams properly, so then they can dethrone them and have good runs with the tag team championships. But again, both tag team titles at the minute really aren't that important. They don't make them feel important by having them not be on pay-per-view. And yeah, like most of the groups in WWE right now are not dominating the way they should be, other than maybe the Bloodline, who are obviously going to dominate because they're the Bloodline. But yeah, I'd say Judgment Day could be in better places. Final Testament should definitely be in a better place. American Made are a fantastic team, full of great wrestlers who just keep losing, and it's all stuff like that that makes really no sense as to why they wouldn't put investments in them. And it just makes it, though they're making loads of factions, it makes it almost a dying art. As for AEW, they have no problem establishing teams and kind of having them go on maybe a little run or starting things that, makes them feel important. The issue with AEW is consistency. As a unit and as singles, in tag or singles competition, one of the things that is very positive about AEW is that even if someone is in a group, they can go on a bit of a run as the singles and then come back into the team later on. We see it a lot with the likes of the House of Black and LFI. Buddy Matthews recently got a win on the Full Gear 0 Hour. Brody came to the Continental Classic and he had a good showing last year, even though it didn't end very well. Malachi Black had matches against Adam Cole recently, and yeah, it's just like they do establish these guys as singles and faction, which is good compared to WWE, who literally will only keep them in faction matches and 6-man and 8-man matches. AEW let the fan base see different styles within their groups, which is really cool. But however, some groups seem to be heading into something important and maybe get some big wins and then are immediately killed off by an important loss. Again, I'll take LFI for example. The Beast Mortos, Dralistico and Roosh recently came together, and or in the Rooster's case is back together. They got new members in, they got Jake Roberts as their new manager. Things really seem to be looking up for them, and then they lost their match to get into the tag team fatal 4-way at Full Gear. Beast Mortos lost a pay-per-view match against Hologram. Yes, he's in the Continental Classic, which should be a very good showing for him. Roosh barely wrestles, and I don't know whether Dralistico's hurt or something, but he wrestles even less. So it's like, why form a group and then have them never wrestle? Or at least Roosh and Dralistico's point. Mortos wrestles fairly often and he's very good, but takes a lot of losses. And it's just that case of even for example, they started a feud with FTR, which went nowhere. Now FTR have kind of moved on from that, or at least it seems that way, as they kind of went more for House of Black. I know it was like a qualifying match, but it feels like they might carry that on a little bit more. It's a similar thing with Top Flight. Dante Martin proved for a while that he could really go as a singles guy while his brother Darius was out injured. And then when they came out together, they proved that they can absolutely go in the tag division as well. Arguably one of AEW's homegrown tag teams as well. They recently brought in the likes of Action Andretti, which they then went on a trios run with, even got a trios championship match, which they then lost. They brought in Leo Rush and Layla Gray to their even bigger group now, and since then they have done nothing but be in the kind of purgatory of Rampage matches and Ring of Honor. And nothing against Ring of Honor, but for some people it is a bit of a purgatory place. And yeah, they have many teams that they could really have in their tag division, in the trios division. They wouldn't have brought the trios titles in if they didn't think that they could build a division around it, and they did it first. The Elite, Death Triangle, House of Black, the Acclaimed with Daddy Ass, those were really important title reigns for the trio championships. And obviously the Death Riders now is really important because of where they are on the card, but they barely defend them. I know they did fairly recently, but again, it just seems like they're going to concentrate more on Claudio's singles career. Moxie's obviously not part of the trios thing. Wheeler Yuta seems on one way or the other, and Pac's just there sometimes. And yeah, I feel like they have, again, very similar to the Women's division, they have all the tools they could possibly need to build a really competitive division in the trios, in the tag division. In some groups, they could even do both. But again, it's just a case of they're not really having that build. Private Party had like, what, 2 weeks build to overcome the Young Bucks, which wasn't great, and then the Young Bucks, their reign was very much a case of few and far between defenses, or very few and far between on TV. So, you know, that doesn't help the tag team championships at all. So yeah, again, as I said, they have the tools, they have everything they could possibly need. They just need to put them all together and have it work out really well. They can't just concentrate on the men's single division all the time when they have all this great talent in the tag division that could really make it competitive again, like it was when it was, you know, the Young Bucks, when they were doing all that, the kind of fashionable stuff. They had the Lucha Bros, they had Jurassic Express, they had Red Dragon, they had all these fantastic teams that really, in my opinion, brought tag team wrestling back to the kind of heights it was at in probably the like the late 90s and early 2000s kind of stuff. And yeah, we kind of don't see that anymore. It just doesn't feel important in either company. And I'm not a massive tag team guy, but I appreciate it when it's good. And at the minute, it's very mediocre from both companies, and it's something I'd really like to see come back again in 2025. But, you know, what do you think? Do you think there should be like a whole overall reset on the tag division and kind of not like build from the bottom, because they've got both companies have got plenty of good teams, but kind of put that more investment in the teams, have them kind of have like a group of ones that they know are going to be in that main event spot, and then build others up to that point, or anything like that. You know, just, you know, sign down in the comments what you think should be done with the tag division and with factions overall. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video, give it a like and all that good stuff. Yeah, this is the third of the kind of 3 videos I'm doing as landscape of wrestling in 2025, so I hope you enjoyed the series. And yeah, if you like these kind of videos, do put down in the comments. I'll try and make some more for but probably next time I'll probably do these will be for what WWE will be like after WrestleMania. I know it seems like a while away, but trust me, WrestleMania comes around very quickly at this time of year. And yeah, as I said, hope you enjoyed the video. Do give it a like and give the channel a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.